Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with some more Alternate History Hub. This time, what if the Schlieffen plan had succeeded? What dose? This is a very short video, only 5 minutes to get the remainder, and I'm guessing this is going to deal with the end of the war. Been a few weeks since I watched one, so I forget what happened. Forgot where we left off. Anyways, make sure you check out the links below in my description box or in my pinned comment in the comment section below. Got links to my Twitch channel and my gaming channel here on YouTube. Would love it if you checked them out. Now let's go ahead and hear Cody of Alternate History Hub's thoughts on what if this plan had succeeded.
If you haven't seen part 1 to this video, I suggest clicking here to get caught up or you will be very confused. When war broke out among the great European powers, Germany already had a military plan in mind. One to combat both the French and Russians on its borders.
It's a stick-up.
Was the Schlieffen plan. The German army would invade through neutral Belgium, bypass the French defenses, and quickly capture the capital of Paris. Then, when France was subdued, the Germans would send troops to deal with the Russians. However, in our timeline, the plan failed drastically. The Germans were stopped at the Battle of the Marne, and eventually both sides dug in for what would become 4 years of stalemate and the horrors of modern war. In part 1 of this video, I asked, what if the Schlieffen plan had succeeded? I was able to briefly cover some ramifications of the scenario, but due to time, I couldn't go into detail about the significance. This video will basically be a way to go into more detail and put this all into perspective. In this alternate timeline, if Germany and its allies won World War I, we would see a completely different 20th century. Potentially, a very German 20th century. No, not a Hitler and a Nazi sort of way. World War I...
See, in that, who knows, maybe that would have been a better timeline.
Set the stage of who would be the winners and losers in this modern...
Either way, I'm gonna be honest, America wins. Whoever wins World War I, America winds up on top. I mean, of course, it depends on how America is, of course, excluded from World War I. But, you know, even if the Germans were to pull off this victory, but Austria-Hungary and the Ottomans, for example, are going, and Germany as well, are still going to need the monetary assistance of the United States, much like France needed after the war a bit. Because, you know, after World War I, and roughly, I think also during World War I, the United States became a creditor nation, in which that means a lot of people in the world are using the United States for money, are taking out loans from the United States or whatever. It's been a while since I've used that term for the United States. I haven't heard it since I had a class on World War I, and that's been a long time. Yeah, I think either scenario here, United States probably stays relatively the same. Of course, media becomes more as German-centric instead of British, taking on British culture, becomes more taking on Germanic culture. I don't know, it kind of pretty much also stays the same.
Century, even though at first it was never meant to. The Austrian, Ottoman, and Russian empires all dissolved in the fighting. Russia eventually became the USSR. The British and French were severely weakened and battle lost its prestige, changing the mindset of the two nations. The United States came into the global stage, fighting in Europe for the first time ever. And with Germany, it ended over 4 decades of German ascension. It doomed its potential in the modern world. The war set it down the path of economic turmoil, Nazism, and after World War II, the country was split between the Soviets and the West until being only reunited 20 years ago. World War I defined the history of the modern German state and people. In this scenario, Germany defeats France automatically, and Britain never gets involved in the war. Germany is able to...
Oh my god, I just realized it's been, what, 30 years since German unification now? Oh.
defeat Russia much more quickly. If the Schlieffen plan had succeeded, there would not have been something known as World War I. It would have been the quick war Europe had expected. Since the massive war never happens, actions wouldn't...
Okay, so we are avoiding the scenarios in which it allowed the United States to rise, in which Europe got in a protracted war, which cost the European colonial empires lots of money, and that's how the USA was pretty much able to rise, with Europe spending lots of money. Very oversimplified. Geopolitics. You're welcome. So yeah, if we're avoiding that, then the United States doesn't really get much of an opportunity to rise. But I would still say, with because of the industrial base of the United States, I think things still relatively stay on track. Obviously, we do not know if a different form of Nazism, some form of fascism, were still to rise in, say, it could still be possible inside of Italy, because now Italy lost the war. But Mussolini was still incapable. So, like, how much does that really change? Mussolini would not have been able to probably start a world war on himself by himself. But the thing then is to wonder if France and Britain would have gone down a fascist route or a communist route, and if that would have led to World War II. Obviously, if you have played there's a, what's it called? Kaiserreich for Hearts of Iron 4, that mod, which is a big, fleshed out alternate scenario if Germany had won. That one has France and Britain becoming communist. How likely that would have been? Who knows?
Be taken to prevent another bloody drawn-out fight, because the 19th century tactics didn't prove a failure. The idea would actually be reinforced and remain relevant well into the 20th century, until another brutal war occurs. Odds are there would eventually be a conflict between France and Germany. France could have become resentful at the loss against Germany, spurring outrage among its citizens against the government. World War I was just one of the many conflicts between the two. In our timeline, the war destroyed the German monarchy. In this alternate timeline, the German Kaiser remains a prominent figure for the 20th
God, he looks like a dapper gentleman. Look at him.
century. His power would be weakened by more democratic or socialist forces in Germany, making the monarch a simple figurehead. Germany, in fact, could have become influenced by socialist elements, since Marxism was strong in the country at the time. This is just one path, however, depending on if another war would occur or not. The brutal effects of the war was what brought on the Russian Revolution so fast, but in this alternate timeline, the Tsar would be losing considerable power down the road, even becoming a constitutional monarch or losing power
Risky
altogether.
words.
What is certain is Russia never would have fallen into a Stalin-esque style US.
I do agree. If the war had not been as protracted as it was in our timeline, I do believe that coming. I mean, you could argue that perhaps it was still a close call with the Civil War there on who would win. Certain points. Yeah.
USSR. Even if it did adopt some form of socialism, it's
No
practically
fears.
impossible Russia would have become Stalinist. The United States in this alternate timeline remains isolated and less politically influential as the powers in Europe. It would be an economic powerhouse, yes I said it, but militarily on the global scale would be dwarfed by the empire.
You know what? I agree with that statement. Probably no, because it honestly took World War II for the United States to get a large standing army, because pretty much also after World War I, once World War I was over, the United States military shrunk back to its pre-war levels, like fast, like back down to under 100,000, something like that. Probably even less than 50, I'm not sure. So yeah, the United States for most of its history still has never really maintained a strong standing military. The last 80 years have been an anomaly, technically, for the United States. If we look at our first, 200 years, whatever, math, 100 and, I don't fucking, we'll just round up and say 200 years. First 200 years of the United States, very small military presence.
World War I made winners and losers, but World War II solidified the fate of one big loser, Europe. If World War I never caused World War II, Europe wouldn't have lost its global empires. If Germany won a quick war and another war didn't happen down the line, Europe's great powers would stay in power across the world. Decolonization would...
I don't know, I think, because Indian independence movements had been building up for quite some time, and since India is such a big place, I think Indian independence would have been realized still roughly probably around our same time period. Maybe the British would have been able to hold on to it for a few more years, but I just think because it was gaining traction. So yeah, I think Indian independence, Indian/Pakistani independence would have been a thing that happened still.
Would not have been seen in Africa and Asia because the British and French would have the power to crack down on nationalist movements. The best thing for Africa and Asia independence movements was for their colonial masters to kill each other in 2 devastating conflicts. In the
/ also use, you know, the colonial nations' people to fight the wars for them. Mainly the Indians. That's what Britain would mainly use, I think.
Alternate timeline without
I'm remembering the numbers.
Who knows how long it could have been before these lands would be free from Britain, France, or Germany.
I love the X on America.
As for the specifics, what Germany would get from a victory is hard to say. They could disarm the French and demilitarize some areas, or gained a few of their colonies. However, we have no idea what the Germans would have done had they actually won the war. It's all speculation. This video was to help clarify and give you an idea about what potentially could have happened if the war ended so quickly. What do you think would have happened if the Schlieffen plan succeeded? Like on Facebook and subscribe if you have not done so.
So I think if the Schlieffen plan had succeeded, I don't think we would see the French go down a fascist route. I think they might actually return to monarchy again because of a failure of yet another republic. I could see the French doing that because the French love to revolt against their governments. The British, though, I could see going down a more fascist route. I could see the British becoming like German. I mean, Britain and German are relatively close anyways in terms of culture somewhat. Now, obviously, you know, if you're a modern, but like, I'm talking historical scale of like similarities because the modern British are Germanic descent, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of cultural overlap kind of in that sense. I don't know what I'm saying. I had a thought. I had a point. Really forgot that point. I think the British probably would have been the ones to I think they would have had a fascist leader. The dog started barking. I hope it didn't pick my dog's barking anyways. Yeah, I think Britain would have had a fascist leader. Or the British monarchy would have regained. No, I don't think the British monarchy would have gained stronger grip on government again. I think them losing the war actually would have hurt the monarchy. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. That was What If the Schlieffen Plan Succeeded Part 2 by Alternate History Hub. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.